What's going on, Detroit Dead through and through? Welcome back, Steve. Here, got a Detroit Lions recap video for you. Lions fall to the Giants, take the loss, but it's okay. Not worried about that. I got way more positives than I do negatives, but I got to come out of the gates and give you guys a highlight film or a highlight picture of the most exciting moment of the game for me. I got to start it out with this. This is Nate Sudfeld walking off the field, and I show you this because this is the only thing I want to see Nate Sudfeld doing. Keep walking all the way to Allen Park and into free agency, because that is the only time I was excited, was to see you walking off of the field. I cannot watch Nate Sudfeld play quarterback in the preseason for the Detroit Lions anymore. It's been 2 seasons, and I'm not overly worked up. I think we need to go out and do something about the quarterback situation. Listen, I'm not ready to say Hendon Hooker's quarterback too, but I'll be damned if Nate Sudfeld is. I can't have Nate Sudfeld be the backup quarterback on this team. I can't have him be the contingency. Can't have it. I got to start this episode off with a negative, because I will not end on a negative. I have all positives mostly to say about every other aspect of the game besides Nate Sudfeld. And if you guys didn't like that joke, come on, you know you did. Hit that like button, help me out a little bit. Throw your boy a bone. Nate Sudfeld, man, all preseason we've been talking about how he looks like he's taking a step, he's moving in the right direction, and I've been very skeptical. Very skeptical. I can't have him. I can't. And yesterday I said I wasn't going to overreact. I'm calm. I don't care about the score. Like I said, there was a lot of positives to take from this game. But Nate Sudfeld, I've been preaching all preseason, I need to see good quarterback play, not just for my own sake. There's a lot of guys who are riding on you to carry them, to help them get a roster spot. Offensive linemen, like we receivers trying to get catches and targets, and we can't have you holding the ball for 5 seconds or taking forever to get through your reads, or locking onto your first read and him being double covered, or someone spying and just waiting for you to throw that ball for an easy interception. I just can't have it no more. I am going to dedicate an episode. I'm going to do very in-depth research into realistic quarterback 2 options, because I'm not ready for Hendon Hooker. I'm being realistic. I didn't see enough. I'm going to talk plenty about Hendon Hooker. Trust me. I can't name Hendon quarterback 2 yet. So let's move on to some other little negatives, and I'm going to get the negatives out of the way, and then we're going to talk about the positives, and I'm not going to beat it up too much. I thought the run defense at times tonight was a little bad. We gave up some big plays. We had, the New York Giants had 2 running backs over 50 yards, I believe. We got gashed a little bit at times. At times it looked good. At times it looked spotty. I just want to clean it up a little bit. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to harp on it too much. I got some questions about some backup offensive line, and I'm not worried about offensive line, because I know we have some pieces that we can shuffle around, and we were really getting a look at like deep second and third stringers. I'm not overly worried. I get it. If we lose like 3 or 4 offensive linemen, we might be in trouble, but overall, I'm not too worried about the offensive line. We have some guys that we can move around. Graham Glasgow can play multiple positions. Penei Sewell can play either tackle position. Coyote Awasikwa, he played okay in the playoff game last year against the Rams. Like, we have some guys that are serviceable, and I get it. Further down the line, yeah, it's question marks, but you got to realize that what we were taking in tonight was third string, essentially, offensive line. Some deep second string guys. Giovanni Manu, like Colby Solerstall, those types of guys who I just don't think are ready yet. Maybe they will be by the end of training camp. It's still very early. I'm not going to hit the panic button on anything like that. Now, 4 minutes of negatives. The rest of the show is going to be all positives. I promise you. There's a lot of stuff that I truly liked tonight. Right off the rip, I think Sione Vaki had some nice carries. Not a ton of a workload. Not a huge slice of pie to really eat on this one, but I did see him break off a nice, decent yard run. I can't remember how far he ran, but it was just a nice run. And I said in my pregame show, I just want to see how he's utilized. Well, I kind of expected him to play a little running back tonight with Gibbs and Montgomery being out, but I think he looked okay. I'm not saying he's going to be the next Barry Sanders or anything, but for his first preseason game, yeah, I think he looked okay. Isaiah Williams, same thing. I would have liked to have seen a lot more from Isaiah Williams. That kind of goes back to the Nate Sudfeld thing. Poor quarterback play. He had some good catches. He had a play late or I think it was early in the fourth, or it was late in the fourth quarter. Picked up a first down. Nate Sudfeld somehow managed to find it in his good graces to get him the football. And we saw kind of why people call Isaiah Williams the Yak King. He had a nice little run after the catch. Nothing crazy. Not going to make your Sports Center top 10. Not going to be a top 10 play. You might see it on a Detroit Lions page, and that's probably about it. But I did notice it. It was a nice run and catch. Picked up the first down. Stuff like that. Just little things. We're not talking about guys making the Hall of Fame in week one of preseason. It's not going to happen. But I thought Isaiah Williams, a guy that I've been very high on since we signed him as an undrafted free agent, had a decent game. I think decent is a fair way to put it. Let's talk about Broderick Martin. I saw some flashes tonight. And when I say flashes, I think Broderick Martin had some really good moves he put on some offensive linemen. They were on primarily running downs that I noticed. He got in there. He was disruptive. And there was one play that really stood out where he pushed the center or guard back directly into the pocket and kind of made, I think it was DeVito was in the game at the time, made him very uncomfortable. And he didn't get the sack. I think Ukwu had the sack on this one, but that disruption was primarily caused by Broderick Martin. This is a large man who's learning the game of football slowly. He is slowly putting pieces together. Now, there was a situation on third down, and I think it was 3rd and 20. I think the Giants had a holding call, and they were backed up. No one passing down, obviously. And Broderick Martin kind of just got stood up. That's really my only knock on Broderick Martin tonight was that one rep. And I was watching him on defense more than any other player. When he was in the game, I'm locked on to Broderick. I want to see what he's doing. My primary focus was on him and him alone. Every rep that he was in the game, I made when the team's going to the line of scrimmage, I'm making a note who's there. If it's Broderick, I'm watching. If it's not Broderick, I'm picking something else. But mainly when he was in the game, that's what was really getting my attention. And in that one rep, I'm not even worried about it, but I would have just liked to seen in a known passing situation, him put at least somewhat of a pass rush together. Cause it's 3rd and 20. What are we thinking he's going to do here? If we get beat on a draw on 3rd and 20, I guess maybe I'd probably be saying something completely different, but I just feel like that would have been a chance to maybe just get more pressures. I'm not saying I even wanted him to get a sack. I would have just liked to have seen a little bit more of that finesse that I saw on some of those running plays is really all I'm saying. So I think Broderick Martin had a solid game tonight, and that's good. Just to see him on the field, slowly putting it together. That's all I really ask. Next positive, small positive, Jake Bates. Don't really like to talk kickers. Not really my cup of tea, but I get it. This kid's got a monster leg. He's got an absolute monster leg. Hit a 53-yard field goal early in the game, and that was literally the only scoring for the Detroit Lions. All I ask for Jake Bates, man, is I'm glad that was a 53-yard field goal because I wouldn't even be talking about it if it was like 36, 40. I would just be like, okay, 36, 40-yard field goal. Like, that's exactly what I expect. 53-yarders aren't gimmies, and he drilled that bad boy. That thing would have been good from about 60. I just want to see him start to be consistent. Maybe Jake Bates is just an in-game kicker, if there's such a thing. Because in training camp, he kind of started out okay. He kind of fizzled off a little bit toward the last maybe 4 or 5 days, I think. Just kind of, I want to see him be consistent. I know he's got a monster leg. And again, if this is a 35-yard field goal that he hits, I'm not even going to mention it. But the fact that it was a 53-yarder, I could put a little respect on that. That's a hell of a boot. Not a lot of kickers are drilling it with that accuracy. I mean, he put it right down the middle, and I think it would have been good from 60. I'd like to see some analysis on that, just to clear my mind. Jake Bates, solid, 1 for 1 opportunity. There were some opportunities. Dan Campbell chose to go for it inside the 5 a couple times. I have no problem with that. I'd rather see the team try to score a touchdown. I'm going to learn more from that than I am Jake Bates kicking a 25-yard field goal. So no problem with that. And there were some opportunities for Jake Bates to pad his stats a little bit, but I really don't care. So it's not even really worth mentioning. I just wanted to say, there were some opportunities, but that's okay. Now let's get into the moment that everyone's waiting for here. Hendon Hooker. I really thought there was, and these were very, very brief because Hendon Hooker, first and foremost, went into concussion protocol at the end of the third quarter, I believe, and saw him walk into the locker room, and I knew his night was done. Didn't know what the injury was, but I said, they're not going to put him back in the game, regardless of what it is. He could have sprained his pinky toe. I knew he wasn't coming back. Concussion protocol. Hopefully he clears back for Kansas City next week. But let's talk about the 2 drives that he had. First one, not really a whole lot to talk about. I think he was 1 for 1 for 1 yard. Nothing crazy. Gets the ball back the second time, puts a little drive together, hits some nice throws. I saw him hit a deep out in stride with a little zip on it. That's the stuff I've wanted to see. I wanted to see him making some of these throws. I don't want to see 80-yard bombs. I want to see accuracy. I want to see you making the hardest throw in the NFL, an out route to the far hash. And I think he hit that. I can't remember who the receiver was, but it was the second possession that Hendon Hooker was in, and it was a nice throw. And then he hit a nice little crossing route to some guys. We all saw him first of all. Let me back up to the beginning. This was the first time I've seen a Detroit Lions in a play action boot play since we had Jeff Garcia. Okay, it's been a minute. It's been quite a while since we had a quarterback with a little athleticism back there. We know Jared Goff's not doing that. We know Matthew Stafford wasn't doing that. We could maybe mention Dante Culpepper, but the first name that really popped in my head when I brought this up was Jeff Garcia way back in like 2003. I can't even remember what year he was here, but it's been a while, guys. So it was fun to see a little wrinkle for the Detroit Lions offense to show some show a little growth over the last 30 years that, hey, this is something we have in our arsenal now, a play action boot pass with a quarterback who can run. But no, in all seriousness, I think Hendon Hooker, small flashes, man. I was really looking forward to seeing him play in the whole second half. Injuries happened, but what I did see was what came to mind was I remember Ali McNeil. He was on a podcast. I can't remember who it was talking about, but he was mentioning Hendon Hooker, and he said the ball just comes off his hand different. And I could kind of see what he was meaning. He's got a nice little zip to it, and I haven't seen it in a while because he hasn't really played since college. But Hendon Hooker put together a nice drive. He ran the ball, trucked a guy. I put out a tweet and called him Hendon Tebow Hooker. I think that's what we're going to have to start calling him because I don't remember who it was for the Giants, but that boy got blown up. Hendon Hooker had a nice run, got us inside the red zone. I failed to convert on a 4th down to get a touchdown, but that's okay. I think Hendon Hooker and his 2 drives overall, solid. I want to see more. Obviously, it's really hard to give like a grade or anything on essentially 1 drive, but there was 1 play also that I'll mention where he did a play action, and you could tell, I think Hendon Hooker really wanted to air it out, but he checked it down and the receiver got a nice little gain. I was kind of getting toward the end of my seat, like, all right, I want to see him air this out. And I've been talking about how I'd rather see Hendon put together some drives, but I did get a little excited when I saw him kind of looking like, I kind of want to air this bad boy, but we'll be smart, check it down. So guys, that's pretty much it for the show. Week 1 of the preseason's over. We're getting ready for the Kansas City Chiefs. Lions fall to the Giants 14-3. I'm not overly worried about anything other than the backup quarterback position. Again, I'm going to dive into that, look at some options because I'm done with Nate Sudfeld. I can't do it. But I think I have way more positives, way more to talk about. There were some pass rushers that were out there that looked pretty good too, but I really just wanted to stick to the meat and potatoes in this episode. I will dive into some of the defense a little bit more in depth later. But it's late. I haven't really had a chance to dissect it. So I'm going to get into some more stuff later. I just want to kind of go over the basics for now. I will have some more out. I'll do another. I'll have to watch that game again, or I can go back and rewind. So stick around. Hit that like button, guys. Glad to have you. Thanks for watching.